Today we are talking about one variable that can drastically change the taste of your cup of coffee. What's up everybody, hope you're doing awesome out there. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. In this video, we are talking about water, and specifically the water that you choose to brew your cup of coffee with. If you're newer to specialty coffee, you might be shocked to hear this, but water drastically affects the way your cup of coffee tastes. Water contains all kinds of crazy stuff. Minerals, which is a good thing, but not all minerals are good for coffee, but it also contains microorganisms and bacteria and lots of other things that aren't good for coffee, let alone anybody to drink. And while modern water treatments do make water safe for us to drink, especially out of the tap, it doesn't do a great job of making our coffee taste better, and there's still a lot of minerals and other things in that water that aren't the best for extracting the best flavor from your cup of coffee. There are many ways you can get water from the tap in your kitchen, or maybe you're on a well. You can buy bottles from the grocery store, which I don't necessarily recommend because there's a lot of plastic waste involved in buying store-bought bottled water. And then there are also places maybe local to you where you can refill jugs of water, which is my recommended way to go. In most places, water has to be chemically treated to remove microorganisms and bacteria and other things to make water safe to drink. The chemicals and minerals remaining in that water after treatment really aren't the best for extracting good flavor from your cup of coffee. So you may be thinking to yourself, I'm gonna boil the water anyways, why isn't that good enough? Why isn't just boiling the water and boiling those minerals and things out of the water good enough for brewing a good cup of coffee? It's a common misconception, but boiling water does remove some impurities, especially like microorganisms and bacteria and things like that that can't sustain high temperature. However, it doesn't remove minerals and it doesn't remove some of the chemicals that may be left over from water treatment. Therefore, still not making it a great source of water to brew coffee with and extract really good flavor. If you have a water filtration system in your fridge or something like a Brita water pitcher or container that you can use and fill up, those things definitely remove the chemical taste and smell from your water and can definitely make it taste better, but they don't really do anything to the minerals that are in the water or any additional things that might be in the water, nor do they really make it better for brewing a cup of coffee. If you buy distilled water from the store or you have a place near you where you can refill jugs of water and you can get distilled water from them, that's better, especially if it's zero mineral, but zero mineral is still not ideal for brewing good coffee. Extracting the best flavor possible from coffee requires a certain type and amount of minerals to be in your water. So that's where something like third wave water or another coffee mineral additive for your water comes into play. Now, I'm not affiliated with third wave water or anything like that. It's just one that I happen to use quite frequently. There are other ones out there that I have used, like Lotus water, and then I believe there's ones just called mineral for coffee or water for coffee or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. I'll definitely try to leave some links down in the description for minerals specifically for brewing coffee for you guys to check out if you want. I just happen to use third wave water quite a bit because it's convenient and it's easy to get, and it's probably the most common and, as of right now, the most popular one that most of you have heard of. The profile from third wave water that I'm using in this one is the classic profile. However, they do make one for espresso, and I believe they now make one for tea as well. The nice thing about using pre-made minerals that you can add to your water specifically for brewing coffee is that it's super easy. You can pre-make batches and leave it in storage containers or jugs and use it whenever you're gonna make a cup of coffee. In my case, I have 6 1-gallon glass jugs that I get distilled water from my local water refilling place, and then I add 1 packet to each one of those 6 gallons of water, and then I just have them on rotation and use them as needed to make coffee, and then when I run out, I go refill another 6 gallons. So with that being said, I'm gonna conduct a little quasi-science experiment here. I'm gonna brew up the same coffee with 3 different waters, same brewing method, same grind size, all that sort of stuff, and compare how each one of them tastes. For this test, I will be using a natural Ethiopian coffee from JBC Coffee Roasters, and I will also be grinding all the batches of coffee on the same grind setting in my Ode grinder with Gorilla Gear burrs. So first, before we brew up and taste the coffee, we're going to test the water itself. So this right here, both of these cups are tap water. One is just straight out of the tap, not boiled, and this one is boiled. We're gonna use a TDS meter, and we're going to measure the minerals, amount of minerals or total dissolved solids in each one of these cups of water, so you can kind of see what's directly out of the tap and the difference that's made with boiling it. So this is just a really simple TDS meter. Turn it on here. Shows up on the screen, shows you right now we're measuring 0 parts per million. And one thing I want to say before we measure this is that the EPA recommended level of total dissolved solids or minerals in the water coming out of your tap should be no more than 500 ppm. So just keep that in mind as we're doing these tests. So we're going to test the unboiled tap water first. 544 parts per million. Good job on filtering your tap water, Phoenix. So obviously right there, I don't even know if you can see that in the camera, but 544 parts per million from the tap water just straight out of tap. Remember, the EPA limit should be no more than 500. So that's a little concerning. So I'll reset this to 0 and then we'll test the boiled tap water. Interesting. So the boiled tap water is 574 parts per million. Testing that again just to make sure that that's accurate. Yeah. Okay, 571 parts per million. Again, don't know if you can see that on here, but that's pretty interesting that the boiled water actually has a higher total dissolved solid rating than the water straight out of the tap. I don't fully understand the science behind why the boiled water has more parts per million than the unboiled tap water. Either way, over 500 parts per million of total dissolved solids in your water is not good. The other thing you'll notice with tap water too, at least here where I live in Arizona, is that this smells like a swimming pool. This literally smells like chlorine and some weird other chemicals. I don't know, maybe neighborhood kid peed in there. This just goes to show you why tap water is not the greatest. So now we're gonna move on to filtered fridge water and water filtered through a Brita filtration system. So this right here is water from my fridge, which has a replacement cartridge style filter in it that I just replaced. And this right here is water from a Brita filtration container. And this one, I also replaced the filter on it prior to doing these tests. So we zeroed out the TDS meter here. So let's check the fridge water first. Again, I don't know if you can see this on the camera there, but 546 parts per million. And this is from the filtered water from my fridge. Now, I will say there is no chlorine smell or sort of chemical smell, and we haven't noticed any sort of chemical, taste or anything. We drink this water filtered from the fridge pretty frequently. It is a touch alarming that it doesn't seem to have any less total dissolved solids than the water coming straight out of the tap. Zeroed it out, and now we will check the Brita water filter. Okay, the Brita is actually a little bit better, 497, which is good. So at least we're under that 500 limit mark here for drinkable water, but still not as good as I would think it would be. Again, this is, brand new Brita filter. This is water that we drink out of as well. No chlorine smell or taste or anything that we've ever noticed, so I'm sure it's perfectly safe to drink. But it is still kind of alarming that the Brita water filter, which are supposed to be, really good water filters, aren't that much better than what's coming out of the tap or even filtered through, the filter in our fridge. Doesn't taste like chlorine, so I guess that's a good thing. This right here is zero distilled water that I get from my local water refilling place, and I have tested this water before with this TDS meter, and it always comes up as 0. I don't have any that doesn't already have third wave water mixed into it because I didn't plan ahead for this video and leave one that I didn't mix. So you'll just have to trust me that when I get this water, it's fully distilled at 0 minerals. And this water here has got third wave mixed into it that I got out of the jug that I normally use for what I brew my coffee with. So we're gonna zero this meter out and we're gonna test this. So this is coming in at 105 parts per million, which I don't really know whether or not to say that's good or bad. Obviously, it's way lower than the total dissolved solids we're getting in the tap water and the other filtered waters that we tested. But one thing about the third wave water or any mineral water, additive that you're getting for your water to brew coffee with is that whatever is in this is specifically designed for brewing coffee. And I can tell you by reading the back of the package here of third wave water what exactly these minerals are. And so in third wave water, this is magnesium sulfate, calcium citrate, and sodium chloride. For the most part, I think that those 3 minerals I just listed are pretty common in the world of mineral additives for brewing coffee. So now that we've done our very scientific water test, we're gonna move on to the brewing and taste testing. We've got 1 cup brewed with tap water, 1 cup brewed with filtered water from the fridge, and 1 cup brewed with the third wave water. All right, tap water test. Initially, right on the tongue, it wasn't terrible. But then all of a sudden there was this sort of weird, lack of a better way to explain it, was this sort of like a chemically kind of taste. The body's a little weird on it to me. The finish is very dry. Marisa says it's gross. Cleansed my palate here. Let's move on to the filtered water. Okay, it's better. The sort of chemical harshness isn't quite as apparent. I'm actually getting a little bit more of the discernible flavor notes of this particular coffee in this one than I was in this one. And the finish on this one is not quite as kind of dry or harsh, I guess, if you will. Give that a try, Marisa. It's noticeably better than the tap water. Now, third wave water. It's crazy. It's crazy to me that water makes this much of a difference, because it's something that even now, even after I've known this for how many ever years, like, it's still crazy to just compare them side by side like this. This is remarkably better. Great flavor, much juicier. The fruit note is more present. It's like almost salivating a little bit from that like juicy, citrusy, sort of fruity berry flavor from this. And the finish on it is just nice and even, a little bit of sweetness.
It tastes way better than the first one, way better.
A little more sparkling water here. I'm gonna go through these again. Ugh, God, it's even worse after it's cooled. Better, not great, a little better, very similar. The only thing I would say the difference between these two is just this one doesn't have quite as much of that chemically sort of chlorine pool water sort of note. We already know is much better. All things being equal, only thing being changed is the water. It is an absolute night and day difference in the flavor of these coffees. If all I had access to was filtered water of some kind, obviously that's the better way to go, hands down, over tap water. This definitely tastes better. It's still not great, but it's definitely noticeably better than the tap water. Anything is better than this. This just has such a weird chemical flavor to it that's not good. So this is definitely better, but not even close to being on the same page as coffee brewed with, you know, good mineralized water specifically for brewing and extracting coffee. Again, this was with third wave water. Like I said, I'll leave links down in the description for you guys to check out and try some of those. You should notice a pretty remarkable difference if you're not already doing this. So the one thing that can drastically change the taste of your cup of coffee is water. After all, coffee is mostly water. So if you're gonna drink good coffee, you might as well use good water. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you're brewing the best cup of coffee you possibly can at home, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.